From the White House, current federal law is clear. Taxpayer dollars cannot be spent on Medicaid or Medicare related to undocumented immigrants. Rep. Jeffries. Reality check. Criminal illegal aliens did get taxpayer-funded Medicaid. Democrats exposed. Uh-oh.
Federal law prohibits the expenditure of taxpayer dollars on providing health care to undocumented immigrants. Nowhere have Democrats suggested that we're interested in changing federal law.
Whoopsie.
Are Democrats demanding health care for illegal aliens?
Democrats are demanding health care for everybody.
I did universal health care when I was mayor, fully implemented, regardless of pre-existing condition, ability to pay, and regardless of your immigration status. San Francisco is the only universal health care plan for all undocumented residents in America. I'm very proud of that.
Oh, he's very proud of that.
Current federal law is clear. Taxpayer dollars cannot be spent on Medicaid or Medicare or the Affordable Care Act related to undocumented immigrants. And not a single Democrat has raised the issue of trying to reverse that federal law.
Yeah,
Raise your hand if your
exactly
government
true.
plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
All those presidential candidates, they all want to give your money to illegal immigrants.
By having 11 million undocumented people in our country be unable to access health care.
Dude, you got more than 11 million Americans who don't have access to healthcare right now. Are you fucking kidding?
Federal law clearly prohibits the expenditure of taxpayer dollars to provide health care to undocumented immigrants, period, full stop. And no Democrat on Capitol Hill is trying to change that law.
We have, of course, J.D. Vance out saying that all we want to do is provide, I say we, a Democrat, provide, care for illegal aliens. That's his language. And of course,
that's just not true what he's saying.
The American people know that Republicans have shut the government down because of their unwillingness to provide health care
5 Democrat
to everyday
senators shut it
Americans,
down.
working class Americans, and middle class Americans.
Yeah, that's a lot. Well, not a lot, but they showed a handful of violent illegal immigrants who received Medicaid. Anyway, so moving on to the next one here. Christian Collins, Hakeem Jeffries says President Trump's deportations are not what the American people voted for. Meanwhile, 175,000 Americans have applied to become ICE agents. Another example of Democrats being completely out of touch with the American people.
Jeffries.
Which, by the way, ICE, they may have actually opened it up to more, but initially they were only looking for 10,000 people. And they've already had, at this point, close to 200,000 people who applied
You
for
wear
it.
many hats, and one of your jobs is to try to win back the House for Democrats. And we were talking about immigration before we went to break. Now, some Democrats, amid the criticisms of ICE right now due to these ICE raids, have started calling for defunding ICE. Do you think that's effective going into the midterms, and do you support those calls?
Well, I definitely think that we need aggressive oversight as it relates to the overly aggressive behavior that we've seen, from ICE, from the Department of Homeland Security. It's not what the American people actually, in my view, voted for. Yeah. Donald Trump and Republicans promised to go after violent felons.
And they are.
But instead, they're going after law-abiding immigrant families.
But they're not.
You wear many hats.
They're
and one of your
absolutely
jobs
not.
is to
Not
try
right
to
now.
win back the
They
House
will
for
be.
Democrats.
But that's what the popular majority of Americans actually voted for, because that's why they voted for President Trump, because his campaign issue number 1 was the immigration
We were
issue.
talking about immigration before we went to break. Now, some Democrats, amid the criticisms of ICE right now due to these ICE raids, have started calling for defunding ICE. Do you think that's effective going into the midterms, and do you support those calls?
Oh,
I
yeah,
definitely think that,
please campaign on that.
We need aggressive oversight as it relates to the...
Yeah, defund. All right. I'm not going to play it a second time all the way, but all right. RNC research, Hakeem Jeffries, no Kings protests are just as American as motherhood, baseball, and apple pie. These protests will feature pro-Hamas speakers and have sponsors like the Communist Party USA.
The protests that are going to take place today, the peaceful expression of dissent, is entirely consistent with the American way. In fact, it's as American as motherhood, baseball, and apple pie.
Yeah, and they made it... They were so hell-bent on trying to keep it as peaceful as possible that most of the No Kings protests occurred from noon until 2 o'clock p.m. And just about all of them, with the exception of a very small handful, because they claim that there were 2,500 different locations for the No Kings protests. Like 99% of them only occurred for just 2 hours, just around lunchtime, because they knew that if they were going to put that on in the evening hours, that they were going to get way too much violence because, they don't want those young progressives going out there and protesting because we all know what they're capable of doing. All right, anyway, so that was in response to Chuck Ross. He's speaking alongside Mehdi Hassan and Effeni Evans, an activist who wrote "Fuck America," celebrated the Trump assassination attempt, defends Hamas resistance, and called Charlie Kirk a bitch after he was murdered. Freebeacon.com, so on and so forth. I will link that. But anyway, they're responding to Chris Murphy. "Big day tomorrow. Don't let Trump's authoritarian crowd bully you into silence. This is our movement to stand up for our democracy and against his corruption. I will be with Bernie Sanders at the D.C. rally. Find yours at nokings.org. I mean, who's going to finally tell them that we're not a fucking democracy? We aren't a democracy. All right, moving on. Eric Daugherty, just in, Hakeem Jeffries calls Karoline Leavitt sick. She's out of control, demented, ignorant, a stone cold liar, or all of the above. Every single one of those words apply to Hakeem, not Karoline. He's flailing.
It's a matter of deep concern. Like, we've already seen a rise in political violence and hatred in America. And then you've got swastikas apparently appearing in the offices of Republican members of Congress.
What? Apparently? I would love for you to show proof of that one. Swastikas in Republican offices. You notice how he threw in the word apparently because he knows he's completely full of shit.
You've got young Republicans engaging in the most anti-Semitic and racist speech possible.
Such as?
Like, this is apparently...
Look, man, this would be the time for Democrats to be blasting that all over social media. I go over Democrat posts all the time. I see it all day, every day. And I haven't seen one single instance of any young Republican engaging in anything that he's talking about. You'd think that they would be showing images of this stuff because it would be egregious. But there's nothing to be seen. Absolutely nothing.
Who many of these people are. They are ripping the sheets off. In plain view.
What sheets? Oh, you mean like the white sheets that Democrats used to wear back in like the 20s, the 30s, the 40s? You know, the Ku Klux Klan, I think they were called, which was started by the Democrats because they lost their slaves.
American people. Their words, their actions, revealing themselves in so many different ways. And then you got Karoline Leavitt, who's sick. She's out of control. And I'm not sure whether she's just demented, ignorant, a stone cold liar, or all of the above. But the notion that an official White House spokesperson would say that the Democratic Party consists of terrorists, violent criminals, and undocumented immigrants, this makes no sense. That this is what the American people are getting from the Trump
exactly
administration
what
in the middle
your party
of
stands
a
for.
shutdown. So their actions continue to speak for themselves, which is why they're on the wrong side of public sentiment.
Oh my God, dude! Does he actually think that people actually believe what he's saying? I mean, I'm sure that there are a lot of people who do believe what he's saying. The people that just blindly follow everything MSNBC, CNN puts in front of the or puts on the screen for him every single day. All right, Sarah Rose. Karoline Leavitt goes off on Hakeem Jeffries. Here's the comeback after he called her sick, demented, ignorant, and a stone-cold liar for merely speaking the truth. Let's hear what Karoline has to say about that.
Sure would, Sean, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to do so. Look, Hakeem Jeffries is simply lashing out because he knows that I am telling the truth about the modern-day Democrat Party. What I said, and it is a fact, is that the Democrat Party caters more to pro-Hamas terrorists, illegal aliens, and violent criminals. And let me walk Hakeem through the facts of that statement. When it comes to pro-Hamas terrorists, it was Hakeem's House Democrat caucus that voted against a resolution condemning the October 7th attack on Israel. It was Hakeem Jeffries' Democrat caucus that supported and encouraged the pro-Hamas protests that ravaged college campuses and engaged in illegal harassment of Jewish students across the United States of America under Joe Biden.
And who was it? Was Harvard? Was Stanford another one? Berkeley was another one. They settled for hundreds of millions of dollars out of court for students, Jewish students who were relentlessly harassed on college campuses. They had to pay untold millions and millions of dollars earlier this year because of that.
When it comes to illegal aliens, the American people know the truth about that. The Democrats allowed them to flood our country. Why? Because they view that constituency as their future voters. And when it comes to violent criminal...
and also they're counted in the census, and Democrats want to use that so they can get more congressional seats. That's what it's all
about. Look at what the Democrats support in terms of crime. Soft on crime policies.
Yeah,
like
defund the police. Remember that?
Bail, like letting violent criminals out
now they want to defund
into the
ICE.
streets so they can
but they love law enforcement.
Violent offenses against law-abiding American citizens. The Democrat Party puts Americans last. That's why they overwhelmingly lost the election to President Trump and the Republican Party, and that's why they're holding this country hostage right now from law-abiding, tax-paying American citizens who want the government to be open. So Hakeem Jeffries should stop calling me names. He should stop trying to fight my boss, President Trump, and he should go back to doing what he was elected to do, the business of the American people in Congress, and encourage Senate Democrats to open the government. And I see Hakeem Jeffries saying House Republicans are out. They're not even here. Yeah, because they did their jobs, and they passed a clean continuing resolution at the behest of President Trump to keep the government open. And now Senate Democrats and Chuck Schumer are blocking that to fight Donald Trump, and it's despicable.
Well, I could take a wild guess as to won that argument. All right, I got another one from Hakeem Jeffries. Rep. Hakeem Jeffries is now threatening to sue Speaker Johnson if DEI Rep-elect Adelita Grijalva isn't sworn in today. Democrats have shut down the government in order to try to get free health care for illegals, but they'll get nothing.
You are demanding that
actually
be sworn in this afternoon.
Wait here, let's see what he says.
Not, what are you planning on doing, and are you going to be there for the proforma?
All options are on the table with respect to Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva. It's shameful that she has not been sworn in because Speaker Johnson and House Republicans apparently want to continue to hide the Jeffrey Epstein files from the American people.
Or maybe it's because the government shut down.
Weeks. And so it's my expectation that if she is not sworn in today, during the pro forma session today, as the Arizona Attorney General has made clear, expect swift and decisive legal action.
Well, look, I've been pretty clear about that. I'd side with the Democrats on releasing the Epstein files. Yeah, if there's any Epstein files, release them. Yeah, don't hold them back. That was ridiculous. They said they're going to release everything, and they didn't release everything. I mean, that's absolutely stupid. Plus, back in the beginning of September, you had the victims of Epstein addressing the nation, letting us all know that they're going to release their own list. And I still have yet to see that list. Why are they holding that back? They should have just released the names while they were up there on the podium. But there were several victims of Jeffrey Epstein, as they said, and they said that they're going to release their own list because Republicans are refusing to do so. And I'm still waiting. I think we're all still waiting for that. They still haven't released their own list. So, all right, anyway, Hakeem Jeffries, please spare us the fake outrage and try not to be such a fraud.
The threat right now in this country to the American people are extreme MAGA Republicans. That's the threat. That's the problem. That's the crisis that we confront. Extreme MAGA Republicans. And then you got Karoline Leavitt.
I'm serious because I'm doing the political hand gesture.
She's out of control. And I'm not sure whether she's just demented, ignorant, a stone cold liar, or all of the above. But the notion that an official White House spokesperson would say that the Democratic Party consists of terrorists, violent criminals, and undocumented immigrants, this makes no sense.
All right, from Sandy, Hakeem Jeffries, the events of January 6th were truly the Hate America rally. Currently, Democrats are likening their No Kings demonstration to the American Revolution. Let's take a look, and let's go to the next right here.
I support the right of every single American.
That is a terrible view. I can't full screen it.
Take place this week, and showing up to express dissent against an out-of-control administration. That's as American as motherhood, baseball, and apple pie. That's the First Amendment. And the notion that this...
All right, what is this one?
2.5 centuries ago, a handful of farmers and printers and philosophers looked across an ocean at the most powerful man in the world and said no. no to divine right, no to inherited power, no to the idea
that would be on July 4th, dude.
Will could rule a free people. In the Declaration of Independence, our founders set out a long list of grievances against their British masters. And here's part of what they said. He has obstructed the administration of justice, made judges dependent on his will alone, cut off trade with all parts of the world, deprived us, in many cases, of the benefits.
Oh, good grief, dude. I don't want a fucking history lesson. Oh my God, I'm not going to watch that shit for 3 minutes. Whatever. If you want to see it yourself, I'll repost it. If you want to check it out, I'll put it on my profile, which is linked in the description. Or you can also just go straight to Sandy, SD73660. You can remember that. But anyway, yeah, it's reposted. So Hakeem Jeffries, one more. Peaceful protest against an out-of-control president is the American way.
I support the right.
Oh, we already saw that. All right, whatever. All right, new Rep Hakeem Jeffries doubles down on his hate Karoline Leavitt. The White House press secretary is an unhinged disgrace. If she's opening her mouth, it means she's lying. That's the best comeback he's got.
Well, the so-called White House press secretary is an unhinged disgrace. If she's opening her mouth, it means that she's lying. And clearly, we've seen that
like
in
a true
this
Democrat.
context. The protests that are going to take place today,
well, they're just
the
like
peaceful
lying.
Expression of dissent is entirely consistent with the American way. In fact, it's as American as motherhood, baseball, and apple pie. It's what the framers of this Constitution envisioned. You know, in this country, when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. But when the government fears the people, there is liberty. And it's important.
Yeah, well, the Democrats don't fear shit. Well, actually, they probably do, which is probably why they're going so psychopathic.
To express peaceful dissent.
That's why they're trying to take our guns away.
Of the Trump administration, and the fact that Republicans continue to unleash extremism on the country in ways that are deeply harmful.
All right. So we got that one. I think that's the end of Hakeem Jeffries. I mean, there's this one, which, yeah, I already went over that one, so I don't need to go over that one again. So there you go. Hakeem Jeffries being a lunatic as usual, doing the best that he can do, just the very, very best that he could possibly do.